best entertainment on the earth. Tune in for Comics with Perch.
Hey everybody, this is Perch. Well, Elon Musk has bought Twitter, and in theory is making changes. He actually, I don't think can make changes yet, but there are changes being made. It seems like the algorithms are shifting somewhat. A bunch of accounts that were suspended are now being appealed and coming back. There's been some kind of bot purge, or some things have been going on. I'd love to know the story. We may probably never know what exactly is going on in kind of this week following the immediate purchase before he actually, I mean, it's going to be a while before he actually has control to do anything. Now, maybe he's calling in and they're like, screw it, you're going to be in charge anyway, and they're letting it happen. I don't know, but it is definitely some things are shifting with that platform, and they're curious. I think the thing that is probably most curious is kind of the algorithm changes and some of the things that are going on there, because if it certainly appears that there was a lot of suppression being done behind the scenes, and some accounts, you get why they were troll accounts. If somebody was suppressing my account on Twitter, I would get it. I make dumb jokes, so all right. I mean, kind of a weird flex to want to put that stuff there, but all right. But other accounts are more puzzling. Some of the news sites were targeted. And it's not strictly right versus left. It feels more like established versus, new and what's the incoming, I guess. There's a lot of smaller media outlets that are like suddenly getting massive booms in their hits. And it's not only, in fact, I don't say only, I don't even know if they are, but it's not right-wing news outlets. It's even just smaller kind of local stuff. There was a story kind of locally here in Texas. The city of Fort Worth, which is near Dallas, they had their city kind of website, their information website, and the news site from the channel that's local to Fort Worth had a 4,000 plus increase in followers and engagement following in the days that followed, and that just doesn't make a lot of sense. It is you may go, oh, Texas, it's probably right. It wasn't right wing. It was just kind of basic city news. If anything, I think Fort Worth, heavy into the arts. I don't know. Anyway, it's weird. But it got me thinking. As I do, I post some troll nonsense, and what I post was that hey, Elon Musk is going to buy Marvel and immediately restore Peter and MJ's marriage, and get rid of that Phoenix is Thor's mom crap. Put the X-Men back in Australia, and give Jeff his ongoing Mosaic series back. My little joke, but it got me thinking. Like, we all talk all the time about how we want the comic industry to change and all the rest, and a lot of those comments are kind of esoteric. They're things like, we want the lack of woke content, or we want a more traditional superhero action, or things that are kind of more vague. You probably have in your mind what those things I'm saying means, but they can be different things to different people. So it got me thinking, what would if I could wave a magic wand and just have like 3 things in comics, Marvel, DC, whatever it happens to be, indies, if I could have things restored or brought back. So not something new. Like if it was something new, what I would wish for is that we had, a dozen strong indie companies that were doing as much financial business as Marvel and DC, that all were playing kind of different bets, and that we had, just far more options. Rather than 2 options, we had 18 options of at a really high level, with plenty of distribution, comics everywhere, talent spread out all over the place in these companies. That would be what I would kind of, if I could wish for something new. But the challenge of this question is wishing for something old. So, you talk about comics need to go back. Comics were better before. Comics were great in the 80s. All right, so what exactly? What would you love to see? And it could be anything. So, I mean, a few of mine. I would love it if George Perez had just produced more comics. So this is where I would have loved if he could have gone back and kind of resolved some of the things in Titans. I would have loved to see George Perez tackle, Beast Boy and Terra's, or kind of reconciliation relationship, whatever it happens to be, kind of how that all tied out. In the same vein, I would love to see John Byrne do another long run on the Fantastic, or sorry, well, I'd love to see on the Fantastic Four, absolutely, but specifically here, I'd love to see another run with Chris Claremont on X-Men. I'd love to see the two of them working together and producing another, several years worth of comics. There's a lot of classic creators I'd love to see come back, and I mentioned this in another video, and kind of do their swan song, or at least do another kind of 3, 4, 5 year run, a long run on some of their classic books. Love to see Thor by Walt Simonson again. I've mentioned that numerous times. Other things I'd just love to see kind of them turn back the clock on. Yeah, I mean it's a gimme at this point. I'd love to see them kind of undo John Kent aging up. I'd just like to erase all of the Bendis on. And to be clear, and I think I was watching somebody do a video talking about the homophobic comic fans who want to de-age John Kent to make him, not bisexual or gay, or I think he's declared bisexual. Is Ben Taylor's comment, but that's not a fair comment to make, because people have been wanting John Kent to go back to the kid version long before Tom Taylor came onto the book. They were after this a month after Bendis aged him up. So I think to say that whole desire is born out of homophobia, I think is absolutely untrue, patently untrue. The timing doesn't match up. But I would love to see John Kent as a kid. I mean, hell, make him a kid and then grow him up to be bisexual. I mean, give us that journey. That would be all. There's lots of reasons why having him age in normal kind of real time would have been good. You could have given him the journey of a lot of things, his sexuality included. Not as a young kid, but just as he grew. I think that that's everybody would say that one, but there's a handful of other things I'd like to see. I mean, DC in general. If I had kind of one wish, it would be, when they get characters into a good position, be it Green Lantern, any of the varieties, or Wonder Woman, or Batman, or Superman, to have patience and then stick with that version for 5 years. DC, almost more than any other company, any other publisher, seems to maneuver to get the character into a good spot. Like they go through some crazy lifting, they retcon away some stuff, and they try and dismiss some of the past, and they elaborately tiptoe and dance around some of the weirder changes that have been made to the character, and they get them back into a kind of a perfect state, if you will, where the character can go forward and they're at their ideal center point. And then, like within a year, some jackass comes along and just starts undoing it all. It's very, very weird. Why DC lets that happen? But I would love to see some of those characters go back to kind of their not even back that far. Just go to a place where we're getting kind of good heroic stories out of them again, and let these archetypes be archetypes. I'd love to see Guardians of the Galaxy by Dan Abnett. Hell, yeah, Andy Lanning as well. I'd love to see, the old DNA team was pretty great. But certainly Abnett on Guardians would be pretty nice. I'd like to see that. We don't have a Guardians comic right now. God, what a waste of this kind of the hype for Al Ewing coming onto that book, and then it wound up just going nowhere, despite the fact that you got this big movie and all this hype. I'd love to. There's a lot of little character tweaks I'd love to see. Yes, as I put in the joke about Elon, I would love to see them just restore Peter and MJ's marriage. I think that there's something heroic about the journey of a kid in high school, kind of science nerdy, gets his power, struggles, learns responsibility, works to clean up his life, does not have all the crazy financial or team benefits that an Iron Man or a Fantastic Four has. He has to do it all on his own. Finds love with MJ, and gets married, and has that happily ever after. Becomes a father. Like that entire trip of one character, that journey was magical, and I think it was something that you could aspire to. It was something that I think was inspirational. It really is. If you was to do a video like the top 5 losses that has happened over the last 20, 30 years in comics, storyline wise, that's a huge one. Just like we were robbed of kind of John Kent's journey to grow up and kind of learn his world and come into maturity and that kind of journey, that exploration. We were robbed of Peter Parker being married and what that meant and having a child, all the rest. I think those are really powerful stories that got taken off the table. I'd love to have both of those back, particularly Spider-Man. Absolutely. Uh, I think that where the X-Men are concerned, I mean, I've done plenty of videos here. I would love to be able to go and get back to House of X Powers of 10 and say to Jonathan Hickman, hey, look, we're not going to do 15 X titles and do all this kind of stuff. We're going to do a very tight kind of line. Yeah, we're going to do House of X Powers 10. We're going to do 6 X-Men books coming out of it. So pick wisely, though, because we're going to need you to do really tight storytelling. That head of X job that you had, we're going to need really incredibly aggressive editorial in here, aligning everything, making sure that the story and the mood, the momentum for what you created of House of X continues. And we're gonna, we're not gonna go for a cheap cash grab. If this is a 3-year story and that's it, we're just gonna do it for 3 years and we're gonna find something else. Like I would love to go back and reset that clock and get back to whatever the core dream or mission was of that series. I would love for that to happen. I would like to have things that I would wish. I'd like to undo the Alfred death. Kind of like Peter and Mary Jane and John Kent. I think there's another opportunity here to have this father figure, this character within Batman that had still. I mean, it's weird. Even after decades and decades of Alfred being in that role, there was still mileage on that clock to do more with that character, to explore more of what that relationship meant and who Alfred could be and kind of how there was still plenty of life left in there. I'd love to, and then of course there's a lot of little things. I would love to be able to go through and undo some of the traps in the comic industry. I think if you're going to talk about the out of control behavior of some comic pros, both at conventions, through bars and other things, and then also as it's spilled over in social media and the comics, I think if you could go and you could undo the Warren Ellis forums and the CBR boards and some of those places where just a lot of kind of toxic ego stroking crap went on. I think there was a lot that happened in those areas that kind of set a template for what the next decade, and a half would look like. If anything, I don't know. What we're going to get with a lot of pros now leaving Twitter, it's not a good place for me. They're going to settle in a new kind of centralized, place like the Warren Ellis forums, and you're going to see a sharp increase in the kind of nonsense and behavior that's spilled out of those. I think that's inevitable. Coming out of COVID, there's a lot of pent up whatever, and I'd love to believe that this is going to be positive for people's mentalities, but likely the opposite. But those are just a few of mine. I think I could go for an hour just talking about things I'd love to see and kind of have. But I would love to know from all of you, what is it that you would love to see restored or brought back, or not necessarily even restored, just there's a point in time in which a decision was made. It could have gone left, it could have gone right, comic, whatever, the publisher, creator, whoever it is, they went left, and you wish they would have gone right. That's not meant to be a political allegory, but just you wish they would have gone another direction. What are some of those things that you would love to have seen? I'll give you one last one, because we did that interview with Rachel Pollack. And I liked Doom Patrol. I liked her version of Doom Patrol quite well. I thought in terms of raw kind of creativity and big concept stuff, I think she had more going on than Grant Morrison, who did the arc before her. And so I'd love to see Pollock back on Doom Patrol, or I'd love to see that run extended, because she was setting a lot of things up that I think could have played out over another 20, 30 issues, 2 to 3 years. And we just never got to them. I think that We did the interview with Nancy Collins. I liked her Swamp Thing, but did feel like Collins got to some level of resolution with her story. Pollock resolved some things, but there was a lot else in there that I would have loved to have seen. I would have loved to see played out. So definitely would love to see Pollock come back. That would be a moment to continue that run. But let me know yours in the comments below. What are the things you wish could continue, that you kind of regret that they didn't go the way they did, or they ended too soon, or all that kind of stuff? Let me know your thoughts. Again, not please be specific enough, not just like, I'd like to go back to when comics weren't woke. I mean, but how exactly? Let's get your wish list and get creative. What are the things you would love to see happen? Let me know in the comments below, and thanks for listening.